There we go. And hopefully that will work well. Okay, so today we have the Martinezes, and we met Andrew and Monica and Sergio, I think probably about 5 years ago now. Kind of got recommended to go into their tasting room, and did, and we enjoyed their wine, and kind of precociously asked if we could buy a ton of their Cabernet from the vineyard behind Andrew there, and he graciously has allowed us to do that, and from that point, they're one of the most generous families that I've been able to work with, and it's an absolute pleasure to have them on today. And I'm going to let Andrew take it away, and then Monica, I think you can unmute yourself, and I think Karina can unmute herself as you guys need to go through your presentation.
All right, everybody, how are you doing today? I'm Andrew Martinez, like James said. I'm here at Martinez Vineyard, sitting kind of up over the top of it right now. And we are located 35 miles south of Prosser. Washington is still in the Prosser School District, though, because that's where I went to school when I was growing up. 35 miles away from any town or store, basically. And we're about 2.5 miles from the Columbia River. And like I said, here at Martinez Vineyard, as you can see in the background right here. And so basically, just a little bit about our winery and vineyard, what got us started into winemaking, actually. About 39 years ago, my dad and mom planted this small 3-acre vineyard right behind me here. It's all Cabernet Sauvignon, and we're located in the heart of the Horseheaven Hills on a distinct microclimate called Finney Hill. And Finney Hill is home to some of the most magnificent vineyards in the whole Horseheaven. And so we're really proud of it. My dad and mom had quite a bit of foresight before a lot of the growers here in the Horseheaven Hills. They're the 3rd oldest block of grapes on the entire Horseheaven. Although they're the 3rd oldest block, they're probably the most microscopic block. We're probably the smallest vineyard still in Horseheaven. Now that Horseheaven Hills actually grows about 25% of all Washington grapes at this time. And so the foresight of them to try out grapes instead of doing apples, which was the big thing in Washington back in the 80s. In 1981, they decided to plant Cabernet Sauvignon. Luckily, we were able to be next door to what is now known as Shampoo Vineyard, and you can see it right here above my head. It's a little white speck back here. That's the Chateau of Shampoo. And Shampoo Vineyards is actually initially Mercer Ranch Vineyard, where Don and Linda Mercer have the original Horseheaven Hills planting from 1972. And they were directed by the godfather of Washington wine, Mr. Dr. Clore. And so we were fortunate enough to be neighbors with them. And my parents actually acquired this land from them. And later on, when Don and Linda were consulting with Dr. Clore, they told my dad, hey, you got a great spot up there on the hill to start growing grapes. And if you want to try it, we have our little nursery of grapes right here. And so they bought some stock that year in 1981. So 39 years later, in the early 2000s, Shampoo, it was late 90s when they acquired it, but by the early 2000s, some of the most well-known Cabernet Sauvignons have come out of our little neighborhood here. The top 5 100-point wines are in a little vineyard just to the southeast of me, right over here, over my shoulder, back down that way. So we have a cool little neighborhood. That one is it's Shampoo Vineyard. There's about 5 wineries that are co-owners of that. And if you know who the 100-point winemakers are, then that was there. Over here to my north side over here, there's a little block of Mercer Ranch, Carmenere, and Petit Verdot. And just beyond them on the north side of the hill is Finney Hill Vineyard. And they have quite a few small to medium sized, well sought after wineries that source out of their vineyards. So throughout the years, I grew up in the vineyard. It wasn't until 2005 when it was a business venture called the Winemakers Loft in Prosser. It was made to be a co-op facility where a small winery could lease a bay, a tasting room, and all the equipment that is needed to make that wine. So in 2005, we set off and made 2 barrels of our Cabernet Sauvignon. And we also, with one of the 2 barrels, we blended it with a few other wines that we could come across as needed. And that's where we got our Caesar red wine. So from 2005, we had been making wine in the Winemaker's Loft, and we were sharing kind of the sidebar space of the original owner of the facility. And he also let Coyote Canyon Winery, who is another neighbor. They're about 10 miles north of where we're at right now. And Coyote Canyon and ourselves both had small, like a 3-by-3 foot little space where we would sell our couple wines that we had at the time. And so 2005 to 2007, we were pretty much making our reds. That took 2 years to make them. In 2007, we started to sell it. So in 2007 and 8 and beginning of 9, we were selling just little bits at a time through the winery, but it was doing us pretty good. So we had, during those times, we slowly started to increase 50 to 100 cases. So 2 to 4 barrels, and then 4 maybe to 6 barrels. So about 2 barrels at a time increasing. And in 2009, with the facility, the heart of the economic crash was during that time in 2008. And so the original owner had backing from a company that did not very good during that time. So they had to short sell the property, and we ended up getting some management and owners out of Boise. Have been really nice to us. But when we first met, they had no idea we were even kind of selling at the end of the bar. And at the time, when they walked in, the original owner, he bolted, and they came in and they were like, who are you guys? And so we introduced ourselves. We were really small. We probably weren't ready for the next step of leasing one of the bays there on the side of the Winemaker's Loft. But it was that time to kind of figure out, we either need to try it out and sink or swim. So we tried it out. We had to swim, and we've been swimming ever since. So 2009 to 2020 now, we had been in that side bay, Studio C of the Winemaker's Loft. And just this year in January, we actually moved back into the larger space in the middle of the Winemaker's Loft. So we've come full circle from being on a little 3-by-3 space at the end of that bar, all the way to coming back and leasing out the whole middle space. It's about 3,800 square feet. It's triple the size of the small Studio C bay that we were in on the side there. And we were happy. We're going for our best this year, but now we're stuck in social distancing, and our forte is pretty much good parties, a lot of fun, tasting with people and full crowds. So this is a time where we can kind of reflect and make sure that we're on track to be sustainable in the next few years. And so it's been fun, and we appreciate James taking this whole project on. We are blessed to have our health, and hopefully everybody out there is staying healthy too. And being on this video shows that you are doing the right thing by kind of staying home and staying away from too many people, and hopefully we can keep too many more fatalities from happening. But anyways, so back to the vineyard, 1981. So it's 39 years old. It's 1 year younger than me. I grew up all my life doing weeding and helping with pruning and all sorts of, I go back to the hoeing and more hoeing of weeds. And we haven't grown a whole bunch in the vineyard aspect of it because we've always been kind of, I guess, just kind of, I don't know. We have about 5 more acres, as you can see over here on the side of me, or 6, if you can hear me, 5 or 6 acres. It's all in sagebrush, so those are where we get our beneficial insects from. We could plant a bit more, and we'll look to it in the future as needed. But at this time, we're pretty comfortable trying to make the wine and grow the grapes. But I'm gonna kick it over here to Monica and my dad, Sergio. They're about 2.5 miles south of me, right overlooking the Columbia River. And you can see just above my dad's head, that land across the river there, that's Oregon there. And they're overlooking Alder Ridge, and my dad has been in Alder Ridge since 1996, and he helped to excavate all that land right there and get it planted into grapes. The block right below their elbows right there, it's a block 5 Cabernet Sauvignon we sourced from that vineyard, that small block right there. And we also get our Petit Verdot, our Carmenere, from Alder Ridge Vineyard. So they're going to kind of talk over there, and we'll come back and we'll do what we initially had set out to do and do the tasting with everybody. But here's Monica to talk for a few minutes.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. This is Monica Martinez, and I'm up here at Alder Ridge with my father-in-law, Sergio. Like Andrew said, he is the crew manager and helped plant all of Alder Ridge since its inception and has been helping farm it for many years. But I had a few questions for Sergio I thought might be kind of fun. Well, first of all, Sergio, how many years have you worked in viticulture?
I'm going to say somewhere around, it has been 20 years plus, 20 plus for Alder Ridge. And then I did another 5, so I'm thinking about 25 years or better.
Yeah.
How is that if you're 39 in your own vineyard?
Well, I don't count that as I do like I did 5 years for Don Mercer when they had the vineyard down below, and then 20 years here. And ours is, I take it as the actual experience in the vineyard management situation
rather than working in it. You live in it.
Yeah. So what brought you? So Sergio is actually from Mexico and moved to California with his family when he was young. But what actually brought you from California to Washington?
It was the apple harvest every September, around the 15th of September. We'd go over to Orville, Washington to the apple harvest thing, and then we'd stay there through September and part of October, and then go back home, back to school. And that's why among those trips to Washington is when I met Christy, and this is one of the reasons that I'm here in Washington, because of Christy. But that's the apple harvest thing is what brought us over this direction.
So the story goes is Sergio met Christy in an apple orchard one day and never left Prosser. Christy is my mother-in-law. She is not with us today. She's taking extra precautions to stay home while we're all dealing with this pandemic. We wish she could be with you guys. She tells great stories. She's very colorful, lively person. So we would love to have you guys come visit the tasting room and see her one of these days. I want to talk about where we source our grapes. So we started with Martinez Vineyard, like Andrew said, and it's Cabernet Sauvignon only. So our first few vintages were Cabernet and Cabernet based, and then we made a rosé of Cabernet Sauvignon. And then we needed to branch out and look at some whites and some more reds. So we went to where we know the fruit is good, where Sergio works. So our other reds are sourced from Alder Ridge. And Alder Ridge was getting rid of all of their whites. They were transitioning to mostly red wines. And so at that time, we were growing as a winery and we needed more varietals and we needed some white wines. And so that's where Tudor Hills Vineyard came into play. And so if you'll notice, your Pinot Grigio is from Yakima Valley, Tudor Hills Vineyard. Even though Andrew's family is on the Horse Heaven Hills and dedicated to Horse Heaven Hills, most of the Horse Heaven Hills grows excellent red wines. So my dad and where I grew up was Tudor Hills Vineyard. So I grew up in a vineyard on a farm in the Yakima Valley, and my grandfather was also from California. So he brought his. The long story. Let me start back with my grandfather. So he was a winemaker in Southern California. And when things got crowded in Southern California and they were pushing all the farmers out in the Orange County, San Bernardino, his vineyard and winery were actually in Fontana. He went up and down the whole West Coast. He went looking in Northern California, Oregon, Washington, and he ended up right on the border of Prosser and Grandview out on County Line Road. And that's where he started his family farm and was actually friends with Dr. Clore and had things in place to start his own winery up here in Washington State. He is considered, or a lot of people don't know, but he is the first winemaker to make wine in Prosser back in 1970, or even 1670, I think was the first one for him. But for a company out of New York called Bordy. Long story short, with my grandfather, he was the winemaker of the family and he had a tragic accident and passed away young. My dad and my uncle took over the Tudor Hills farm and started with apples and the things that paid at that time, and then over the years added more and more wine grapes. So right now, all of our white wines are sourced through Tudor Hills Vineyard, including this Pinot Grigio. And if you look at the back of your bottle, I did a little tribute to my grandfather in the back. So it means a lot to me, and I'm passionate about making wine, and so is Andrew. And when we met our senior year of high school, there were several things we had in common. One was we were both farm kids, and two, we loved wine and wine grapes and always had a passion for it. We didn't get into it right away in our lives, but it's something that we both came back to as we got older. So Karina is actually in our tasting room, and she has a picture of several of our Pinots and some awards. But one thing I want to mention to everybody is when we moved tasting rooms, we did an updated label. And so she has a picture of the new label that I thought might be fun for you guys to see. And we switched to screw caps with all of our white wines. Originally starting, we were very traditional and wanted to stick with cork. Over the years, it seems like the cork quality has gone down. I hate to say that. But we decided with our white wines, we wanted something that was faster and easier to open, and we thought screw cap was going to be great. So starting in 2019, all our white wines are screw caps. And I'm going to pass it over to Karina to do a quick tasting room view And like Andrew said, we feel really privileged to be in the Center Bay. We definitely started from the bottom and worked our way up. We feel like we are living the American dream. It's hard right now to see some of that being crushed by the pandemic, but we know that we're going to survive and that we're going to dig ourselves back out of it. And Karina, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes.
Okay, so here are some of the wines with the medals, some Pinot Grigios from the past vintages, 14, 15, 17, 18, and this is the new cap. This is the Pinot Grigio, the 2019 Pinot Grigio. You guys can see that one. There's also other certificates that they have gotten. So let me just walk you through the tasting room. I'll start back in the barrel room. So here's the barrel room. This is where all the magic happens and at the lab. So there's behind the bar. And normally at the bar, we have some bar stools, really cool ones that Monica and Andrew got, but due to circumstances, we don't have them there. It's a pretty cool tasting room. It's huge. And we did get to see it pretty full before the pandemic. So that was pretty cool to have a bigger space. So that's the kitchen. And we're gonna work on a project with this little, they used to have like a backdrop to take pictures right there. It looks like a little cave. So
It's the wine cave.
And so there's a big window right there where you can see the barrel room. So this is the view from coming upstairs. There's a conference room that not used yet. There's gonna be a use for it.
Parties.
Stages yet. Parties, VIP, and this is the view from upstairs. So let me walk down again. Make sure I don't fall. I wish I would have taken pictures when we had a full tasting room because it was pretty cool. The small tasting room next door would get pretty packed. So this one also got pretty packed. So
Yeah, packed over on that other one would be like 20 people, and packed over here is like 80.
Right. So the bar stools are everywhere because we had to find a home for them for now. So let me go outside and show you the winemaker's loft. Oh, that's right. So in the summertime, we have lounging at the loft here, and it's pretty cool. There's tables and chairs. Okay, so I'll start here. So this is the winemaker's loft. Right there is McKinley Springs. Ginkgo's there. This is the middle space that we just moved into. That's the small one that we used to be at. And there's Coyote Canyon.
And Coyote Canyon takes all three of those now.
Yep.
They're in all three bays.
Okay. So.
Awesome, Karina. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Karina.
You're welcome.
All right. Now we'll go on to the tasting. What everybody has probably already been doing, hopefully, potentially. We're tasting our 2018 Pinot Grigio. Most of our wines are from Martinez and Martinez. I'm actually the winemaker. The wine, I'm not formally educated in winemaking. like I said before, I grew up in the vineyard my whole life. I've tasted grapes and grapes and more grapes. I feel like as a winemaker, the grape is what's going to take any wine to its maximum potential. Although there's a few things in the winery that we can help with, if there's issues, it's always going to boil down to the great vineyards that it comes from. And so we are this Pinot Grigio, like Monica said, it's from Tudor Hills Vineyard. Actually, Tudor Hills Vineyard acquired an older vineyard, and that's Otis Vineyard. And these Pinot Gris grapes are actually from that Otis Vineyard. I heard another winemaker talking about the wine from Boucher Vineyard the other night. I watched it on YouTube. I wasn't able to attend that, but Boucher Vineyard is actually within a half a mile. They're both on that same North County line above Grandview. They're actually on the east side of that county line, which would be Prosser, pretty much in the school district of Prosser almost, but they are considered Grandview. And so really close, nice, cool climate, beautiful for this Pinot Grigio to be made and to have good acidity to balance any kind of fruit and a little bit of residual if you happen to leave some of that. Like I was saying, not formally educated in wine. So what we try to do is make wine that we're gonna drink, that we would like to drink. And it seems like as we are drinking that wine and we share it with friends and family, that's basically how we get get sales of the wine, I guess you would say. We don't aim to do anything that's old world or anything like that. We have mostly just new age American down home type of a style.
Andrew,
So-
Andrew, can I interject for just 1 minute?
Sure.
So I feel like Andrew is very much downplaying his winemaking. He took over all of our winemaking in 2009, and he self-taught and worked with a couple other winemaking friends that we were lucky to help us out. And it took about one vintage, and he knew exactly what to do. So Andrew over the years has perfected his mastering of making wine. We are a little bit, like he said, non-old world. We're making wines that we like to drink now, and it's really catching on with our customers, and I think they appreciate that. One thing that Andrew likes to pride himself on is being a minimalist with his winemaking. He believes that the grapes, it all starts in the vineyard, and he always says that he does not want to screw up what all the people working really hard in the vineyard are doing. And he actually has a name for it. Do you want to say it, or do you want me to?
I'm trying to blank.
Oh, De La Raza?
Oh yeah, De La Raza. It's for the people out in the field that are doing all the hard work, and that the hard work out in the field is what makes all wineries in every single state, whether California, Oregon, Washington, even around the whole world, makes winemakers look good. And so we do want to pay tribute to all of that hard work in the vineyard. And so with that, this Pinot Grigio, not made in any style other than we like it clear, crisp, some good acidity. I don't do any testing towards the end of fermentation. So as we're getting down to the final bricks, if it's 0 or under 0, I'm not testing to see if there's still residual sugar in there. So normally all of fermentations go below 0, but there still could be residual sugar in there. So with this one, there's about 1%, I think at 1.3%, but balanced really well with like a 6 to a 6.2 acidity. And it's great with hopefully somebody or a couple of you guys have tried out the ceviche recipe we put on the email blast. It's one that we've been using for years, and hopefully you guys put a little more of the seeded jalapeno in there, unlike what Monica had put, the deveined. You got to have some heat. That heat is what will give you more of those endorphins, kind of like what we're doing drinking these Pinot Gris and all our wines. Anyways, I hope everybody's enjoying the Pinot Grigio as we are. And if there's any questions, I'd be glad to take any of them. I can see Monica and my dad are doing a little bit of touring over there. Where are you guys at, Monica? Oh, you guys, that was block 4 up there. You guys are still in the same spot.
Yep.
Yeah, there's your dad. Sergio, what kind of grapes are these right here?
This is a block of Cab Franc.
These are Cab Francs.
Hey, show us a little closer, Monica. Let's see. Is there any bud break right there?
Oh yeah, there's actual shoots now. They're
Right,
about
what's that?
2 inches long or so.
Point this
Oh,
up.
dang.
Yeah, look there. See this one right here? That's about 2 inches or better.
Nice.
Just from yesterday to today, looks a little bit just a little bit bigger now.
Yeah, they grow exponentially during this time. You go during the night and you come back, and you might have had nothing yesterday, but there can be green or even a couple centimeters of foliage already, as you can see in that Cab Franc. I'm gonna come down here in the vineyard.
Let me ask
see-
Sergio a question real quick. Sergio, what's your favorite wine grape to grow?
I'm thinking well, one of them is Cabernet, but down here, I would imagine it's the Carmenere.
Oh, and Carmenere is one of the grapes that we get from Alder Ridge. Actually, we get all of Alder Ridge's Carmenere.
So I'm showing over here on my end, trying to find. It looks like buds are just swelling here. I don't know if you can see that right there. Can you see that all right or not? Monica?
Hold on one second.
Sorry, did I
Yeah.
bleep
No,
out?
yeah, we can see it. It just jumped back to Monica's screen there for a second. So you're good.
Okay, cool. So I was just gonna point that little bit. We don't have any green foliage here, but bud swelling. Cabernet tends to be a little bit further behind, like Cab Franc, and I think Cab Franc's actually one of the earliest ones to go. So I saw some yesterday that had already been had some foliage growing out of them. But here's some of these older vines that we got here. 1981 planting. You can see they're super thick, some of them. And some of them have the cordon over the years when a plant dies and we don't get to it quick enough, the cordon can become quite large. So this one is about 14 feet long right here. And it should be initially in 1981, there wasn't a lot of research on how far apart and density planting and things like that they know about now. And so my dad, when he first started, he did a 10-foot wide spacing in between the rows, and then he did a 7-foot on the cordon length. And so anywhere where there's a missing plant, our cordons are up to 14 feet long, and we've had some over 20 feet long, depending on where and how long they had gone without getting a replant, which we have a lot of replanting to do in the vineyard. But there's some big gnarly vines that you can see that are pretty cool. This one has gotten so old that we're still trying to catch a few shoots, but it's this guy right here that's actually going to give us our fruit from this other plant, because looks like this one met its last year of living. So kind of interesting. Like we said, we're pretty much minimalist in the winery. Grapes, we tend to best we can.
Andrew,
And yeah,
your
So-
dad wanna-
show him one of the plants that has an extension on the tip of it where part of it died and it's being extended for another few years, where there's a renewal shoot in front of the plant.
okay. I see one right here.
Yep, and that's how you extend them from year to. You start out with one that is laying over the wire as close to the wire as possible, and then you extend it and tie it to the wire, and then it becomes another arm.
Pretty new little cordon getting started 39 years later after the initial planting of that. And you can see that guy right there. Look at that, all the way from over there to over there. Large plants.
I want to go back to this.
All right. Any questions yet, James? Or
Yes, we do have a couple questions. The first one I'll just answer really quick. There was a question about the difference between Pinot Grigio and Pinot Gris. There is no difference between the grapes. They are genetically the same grape. They are just essentially descended from regions, like you asked. Pinot Gris being more France, and then Pinot Grigio has been propagated more out of Italy.
yeah, so
and
we're closer to the style of Pinot Grigio.
Yeah, and also something I think that Andrew and Monica, like when they were talking about their winemaking style and how it's kind of what they like, it's also kind of what they like because of the food that they eat, and leaving some of that RS residual sugar on the wine is a nice way to not have the wine be overpowered by spicy food.
Definitely.
Which could be Thai or any, most Hispanic dishes. And then we had, let's see, I gotta go back here 1 second. This question was for Sergio. They were asking, why do you prefer to work with those varietals that you mentioned? Let's see, I might have muted him there by accident.
there you go.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay, yeah, that was the Cabernet that I said I liked. I think because of the fruit. It has a fairly good sized cluster, and the berries are nice and bigger than the Cabernet. And I just, once it starts ripening, that's every time I go by there, I swing by to grab a berry or two, especially like if I'm working like past lunchtime. That's one of the ways that I bring my sugar up, and it's a real good tasting grape is what it is. Very sweet. And so that that's one of the reasons that I said I like growing that grape.
Yeah, they're super cool clusters. Very large, probably like a 6-inch is not uncommon to potentially 7 and 8, 9 inches long. Nice plump berries, and in theory of a lot of people where they want to have small berries where there's dense color and flavors and all that kind of stuff, the Carmenere defies all those norms, and it gives some of the most robust color and some of the most robust flavors in our winemaking profile. And depending, the grape is a little tougher because it was found in 1994 in Chile after being extinct from Bordeaux for however many years. And the reason why they found it is it actually matures 1 to 2 weeks after the Merlot patch that it was in. So it can take a little bit longer to mature, but when it does mature and it carries on, it's a beautiful beautiful grape. And I think it may have went extinct, maybe just from phylloxera, or maybe because it was so hard for European climate to actually to get that full ripeness. And out here in the Horse Heaven Hills, we're the second hottest, the most heat climate days of the years, dry, and we control our water. We only get about 7 inches of water annually out here. So most of the control is by irrigation deficit. And so we can ripen those hard to ripen grapes. And that's why we're so blessed out here in Washington State.
Their Carmenere is one of my favorite wines as well. They do a really nice job with that.
Thank you.
That just reminded me of a quick question for Sergio. What is the last grape to mature in the vineyard?
The last grape to mature in the vineyard.
I know that one.
I think it's the Cabernet, isn't it?
No, I think it's the Petit Verdot.
Oh, that's right. It is. Yeah. Yep.
Yep,
Right.
Petit Verdot. Some years, in the past 10 years, we've had, and James might want to correct me on that, because is it your Mourvèdre or something that was one of the last ones to ripen, James?
Yeah, Greg just chimed in his Mourvèdre. Greg Latendre is also on. Andrew and I both source grapes from there. Our Mourvèdre comes off Halloween, usually right about Halloween.
Halloween wine.
I don't know if
And
the PV. I don't know if the PV comes off that late, but we only take out the Cabernet out of your vineyard usually maybe a week or 10 days before that anyway. So they're all pretty close there.
Yep, as I was growing up, our Cabernet Sauvignon, our date was right around Halloween as well. In the past few years, we've been getting it earlier a little bit. I've had years where we were right there at Halloween time, and then the Petit Verdot we've taken off latest of November 6th. So all the way into November, which is pretty unheard of, but we've lucked out that there wasn't too many frozen days that year, and it took all that time just to get the acidity to come down and balance with the bricks and everything. So I think Petit Verdot in Alder Ridge would probably be one of the last varietals.
It's very interesting because both Petit Verdot and Mourvèdre are both, they're French varietals, and one's used in southern France where it's much hotter than Bordeaux. But their Petit Verdot has taken really, really well to Washington.
Yeah.
That's just a magnificent job with. You'll see a lot of other wineries start to do a job.
Yeah, and I just saw that it's one of the most expensive by the ton varietals right now.
Yeah.
So that's pretty crazy too.
Yeah. Another question that I was asked: what's your favorite grape or blend to work with as a winemaker? The follow-up to that, most
I don't know. I think there's probably the Carmenere is definitely one of them, just because it's so beautiful when it's in fermentation, royal purple color, just real nice silky tannins on the mid palate. It tastes super good when there's sweetness to it. It always makes me want to leave sweetness in my red wine to an extent where like even Spain and Asian countries would like it, but we never do. And so for the red grape, for white grape, we work with the orange muscat, and it's kind of the same very plump, large cluster, beautiful orange aromas in it. When you're eating it just by the grape, it's magnificent. And in wine, we've made a fortified orange muscat out of it. And so those are two really fun grapes. The other ones, they're kind of, everybody's doing them. And it's just one of those things where to actually get your hands on some of these other grapes and play around with them and see what yeasts are good with that variety. It's a lot of fun to work with those. So I think orange muscat and Carmenere for us.
Which is the one that Go ahead, sorry.
I just want to mention real quick that Andrew, for whatever reason, and it might not be his favorite grape, but he makes an excellent Viognier, and he's got double golds after double golds and best of class with his Viognier. Might not be his favorite, but he sure knows how to make it really well.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. It's not a grape that Andrew does a better job than most Washington winemakers. He gets the character, he pulls the character out of it. Which ones do you find challenges with? Which grapes do you find the hardest to work with?
In that same token of being able to work with the Carmenere as being one of the funnest and all that, it's also a challenging one as well. Like I said, with not only ripening, but sometimes just knowing what the acidity is when you come out of the field and where you're at in the whole winemaking, part of the deal. I don't know the way to explain it, but it can be a challenge at sometimes, and that's just because if you are to not it's all about balance. And so if you aren't keeping it well balanced, it can go awry. So the Carmenere, I kind of got on the spot too. I'm not exactly sure which one is most difficult.
Yeah, and sometimes it's year to year, right? Sometimes it's not the same grape that's always the hardest for you.
Maybe that's exactly what it is. It's probably each vintage. Exactly, you nailed it on the head. That's why I couldn't explain exactly, because each vintage gives us so much difference. Just like we were out here scrambling this last year, wondering if that freeze in early October was gonna slaughter everything, or if things were gonna come out okay. And so yeah, I feel like everything came out all right.
that hill behind you saved that Cabernet. It let the air drain right down. Driving out there when we were coming to get ours to pick that day, some of the other vineyards around you got creamed. So
it was pretty scary, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was intense.
Yep.
Yeah. Have you worked with Grenache yet?
I did a little bit of Grenache this year, but it was after that freeze, so that was my first time, and it's going to be one of those things where I'm not going to actually know about that grape because of the way that it was in the Yakima Valley. Oh, actually, I got some Grenache from Alder Ridge. My dad accidentally picked a ton. We had to take it. So we did get that one, but it had already been getting cold. But they, as you saw, they're up over the river. Moderation of temperature is a little bit better, and the flow of air is pretty good too. So, but you can still count on, it was a little bit colder than what we would have liked it, and it was mature. It was definitely mature, but I think if all that cold wasn't happening, that we would have probably hung it just a little bit longer. And so I'm not going to actually know about that Grenache or what it actually feels like until maybe this upcoming vintage, doing it again or something like that.
Yeah, it's become one of our favorites at the winery. It's also going to be the one that that'll be your answer pretty soon. It's going to make you pull the hair out of your head, because
nice.
One tastes great, and the next day you're pretty sure it's gone bad, and then 24 hours later it's fine. So
yep.
But
had many of those days.
Yeah,
especially during fermentation, huh?
Another question here was where to get some of that Martinez apparel.
Martinez apparel, martinezwine.com. We could get you there. Hopefully we'll see everybody in the tasting room within the next few months or so, depending on the chaotic situation there is now. But hopefully that's all kind of tapering down, and we get back and I see each and every one of everybody in there at the winery, because that's where we're in our comfort zone, having a good time with everybody, and that's where you'll find this apparel. It's awesome. We're getting more, and people are really starting to like it. So it revolves around the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos. That's one of our parties that we have for our wine club, and Cinco de Mayo. I mean, we're one of 2 or 3 Latino wineries in the whole state. We had to put that down. So A lot of fun. Hopefully we can visit everybody one-on-one someday. So I
Yeah,
really
definitely.
appreciate all this good time, good wine, and I hope everybody enjoyed.
Yeah, no, I'm sure everybody enjoyed. Any more questions while we have them on the line here? Yeah, their wine is fantastic, and that's enough reason to join the wine club. But he really does throw a good party. I highly recommend being a wine club member just to go to the parties.
Appreciate that, James.
I have to echo that. That Cinco de Mayo party where we met the Latenders was quite great.
Awesome. How you doing, Pierce?
I'm doing good, Andrew. It's good to see you guys.
Nice to see you too. Hopefully we did okay tonight.
You did phenomenal.
Awesome. Awesome. Good to see you. We'll see you soon in person.
That's my very great hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it looks like we're good. It looks like that wraps up the questions. So you guys are free to go. I really appreciate all three of you getting on. That was fantastic to have Monica and Sergio out there at Alder Ridge.
Thank you
Thank you.
for having us.
Yeah, it's a stunning backdrop. I love that vineyard. Gorgeous place to be able to work.
Yeah, next time you guys come up, remember you got to bring your mom so we can do some little bit of touring and your pops.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we'll definitely do that. And
We'll go
and then
drink some bottles
down.
of wine up in that right above the river there.
I'm sold. I'll be down there about 4.5 hours.
Cool.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks. Thank Karina for the tour of the new
Yes,
tasting room.
thank you,
also.
Karina.
That's
Salud, everybody.
it's a great spot. All right.
Salud.
Cheers. All right. All right.
I'm still here. Do you need me to
Nope.
leave out?
Nope. You can. I'm just
keep
ending the
looking
recordings and all that. So you're free to go though whenever you're
Is
ready.
everybody still on there?
No,
or is it
people are
just you?
starting to exit.
Oh, right on.
But you can stay on as long as you want.
Yep.
I
We'll
was
be
going
on here
to
for another
chit chat
minute.
with you guys.